Hi, how's it going? This is Resident of Collinwood for YouTube, back with a Dark Shadows video for you guys and gals. Yes, I got some Halloween videos for you coming today. I'm going to try to get all my videos out today. Um, this is about the 1795 time branches. I've been meaning to do this video. So, what the question begins, what is the original time branch look like? Let's say for happenstance there are some similarities and some differences, or there are complete differences. We'll do some similarities. Does Phyllis Wick's carriage always overturn? We don't know. Let's say it does. Let's say it does overturn even without the seance of Victoria Winters being hurled back into 1795. I will even do one without it turning here in a moment. But let's say the rest is at least somewhat different. Let's say she gets there, has a logical explanation of why it returned, but Abigail still views her as a witch, still suspects her, even though she knows her name, knows where she's come from, or even if, more importantly, she knows her name, but not exactly where she came from and how she got there. If the woman was always intended to have an accident, meaning her carriage overtaken, it's a 99.9% possibility she lost her goddamn memory. Or at least lost enough of it she didn't even know who she was. But who speaks up for her? Joan Bennett's character, obviously Naomi. Remember, even in Victoria Winter's storyline, Abigail could have questioned one Phyllis Wick about her lack of memory. Again, Joan Bennett's Naomi Collins saves the day by identifying the woman she indeed did hire to be Phyllis Wick. This is not Victoria Winters, after all. I've stated this many times before. That being said, does Abigail still raise questions? Sure. Slowly, things begin to happen after Angelique shows up. Perhaps even Angelique showed up the same exact day Phyllis Wick did. It would make the most sense. So, who do you accuse? The servant of a wealthy family or the governess of a wealthy family? So, what's the big difference? Does Jeremiah still marry Josette the exact same way? I would say so. That is verbatim. I would say that doesn't exactly change. Jeremiah's portrayal is exactly done the same exact way. I don't think there's any difference there. Where do the differences lie, you would say? Here's where they lie, in most. Remember, Barnabas says before Sarah became sick, her doll was mended. Her doll was mended. Meaning, even if she dies of pneumonia, her doll is mended. Meaning she came out to the cold to see Barnabas. Or her doll was mended post Angelique sticking the pins in. I sort of wonder with this. Is Angelique the reason Sarah Collins originally dies, meaning the pins in the doll's chest? When we say sick, sick is an interesting word because sick means many things. But I gotta think, is Barnabas lying about the sick? I don't believe he is, actually. I do think Sarah Collins got legitimately sick. I do think Sarah's death is the exact same way. Well, at least to the degree. The only difference is Sarah's death isn't because of Barnabas. That Sarah's death is literally she got sick. Perhaps even going outside. Maybe she thought she saw Barnabas. Maybe she didn't. There's got to be some more clarification there, though, too. Maybe Barnabas wasn't a vampire when Sarah got sick. Remember, Barnabas says, I mended her doll. Are you mending dolls when you're a vampire? I don't think you are. I think what had happened was, and there's another telltale sign of this, that Barnabas wasn't so busy defending Phyllis Wick, that Phyllis Wick at least had Naomi on her side, even much more stronger than what Victoria Winters did. Remember what I said about Naomi Collins. She knew Phyllis Wick by sight. So there was time for Barnabas to mend the doll. Maybe Sarah honestly got sick and died long before Barnabas, either right before or sometime before Barnabas became a vampire. Maybe in death even, Sarah's ghost had to watch helplessly as Angelique did the things she did. Now, do I totally buy that? No, I do think that Barnabas does mend the doll sometime before he becomes a vampire. I just think that when Angelique drives the pins in, it has much more of an effect than what we believe. Remember, what does Barnabas do? He pulls the pins out the doll. Maybe by the time he pulls the pins out the doll, it's too little too late. Barnabas hesitated to pull the trigger at first, and he damn well did, because he did not want to shoot a woman, witch or not. This man cannot shoot. I love Barnabas. I love the character to death. I love me some Jonathan Frid. But I mean, he barely killed Jeremiah. Come on. He shoots Angelique in the shoulder after shoving the last pin in. The pin is at the heart. He doesn't get it off in time, meaning the shot, meaning it goes into her chest. He says he mends the doll before she dies. Maybe when Barnabas comes to as a vampire, before the bat crashes her, he pulls the pins out the doll. Maybe Sarah doesn't die right the hell away. Maybe Sarah holds off to see her vampiric brother come back from the grave, visit her, and tell him she loves him. It's similar enough to Victoria Winters, but not exactly the same. I don't think it's so far off the beaten path. Here's where it is. Here's where it somewhat is, though. Phyllis Wick was not arrested prior to Barnabas becoming a vampire. You heard me right. Phyllis Wick is not taken into custody and into jail until after Barnabas's coffin is carried. The night Barnabas's coffin is carried to the mausoleum is when Phyllis Wick is taken into jail, taken into custody, and taken to jail. So Phyllis Wick at least knew Barnabas died. It makes sense why she says she knows he died. She knows what he is. This is not Victoria Winters. That, to me, is the closest to the original time branch I can think of that we have. Or at least for the most part of it. Maybe Sarah, like I said, maybe Sarah did hold off. When Barnabas says he mended his doll, maybe his mending is meaning I removed the pins from the damn doll. He doesn't exactly say those words that he removed the pins from the doll and he mended the doll that way. But it could be a way he did mend the doll in removing the pins. Maybe that is his truly last painful memory of his sister before seeing her die because of those damn pins. Maybe that's why the memory is all too sad and all too real. Maybe it's because it's my fault she's dead. Maybe I didn't pull the damn trigger fast enough. Is because she's dead. Maybe Barnabas really does, honestly, no matter what time branch, blame himself for his sister's death. It wouldn't be that far-fetched. I'm not saying this is what happened. I'm saying this is just my fully opinion. You could take it or leave it. Now, that being said, what is the time branch? Well, the first official time branch is Victoria Winters, obviously. She is thrusted back into time. She trades places with Phyllis Wick. Time is frozen in the present day. This is not Back to the fucking Future. You have literally a woman who's holding the Collins family history book who has no idea where she is, and she absolutely should have no idea where it is. The rest, as we say, is history. A lot changes with Victoria Winters. For number one, like I said, she's not Phyllis Wick. Naomi knows she's not Phyllis Wick. That's strike number two. Strike number three is you get to deal with Abigail and Joshua, and it's like a rock in a fucking hard place, and neither is soft. Literally, Abigail in every way is crucifying Victoria Winters. Should she? I mean, yeah, I guess, but in my mind, no, because the girl is innocent. She's not a witch, and neither was Phyllis Wick. This woman is not Phyllis Wick. Naomi knows it. You also have the fact that this woman is a time traveler and is unlike Phyllis Wick, going to admit it to the court that she's a time traveler. She's going to get hung like a witch. Oh, by the way, Victoria Winters, Barnabas Collins, is too busy to previously mend a doll because he's defending Victoria Winters from Reverend Trask. He's hiding her in every place conceivable, and he's got assistance, Lieutenant Nathan Forbes. It's really, really interesting. Also, keep in mind, when Victoria is taken, Victoria Winters, this is how Barnabas discovers Angelique is a witch. And I don't believe this is how Barnabas discovered Phyllis. Sorry. Barnabas is going through the servants' quarters. He's going near where the servants' room was, which is where Angelique's old room was. Angelique is there. She's casting a spell for Victoria Winters to be driven out the house. Remember, Barnabas is not a vampire yet. That hasn't happened yet. Victoria Winters runs out the house because she thinks she sees fire. She runs into the arms of Reverend Trask, who is performing an exorcism on the damn house. Thanks, Joshua. By the way, yes, Joshua Collins asked Barnabas, hey, can you let him do an exorcism so he can get the hell out of everybody's hair? Because Joshua's sick of seeing him. He doesn't want him around anymore. Barnabas obliges his father. Now, does that happen in the original timeline? Who's to say? I would say no, not to that extent, no. And I'll get back to that here in a moment before I go to the other time branch. Now, the rest is history, because I do got to get back to the original time branch. Victoria is tried as a witch. She admits she's a time traveler. Before all that, Barnabas shoots Angelique because she's driving pins into Sarah's doll. He shoots her in the shoulder. She curses him. Bat flies through the window. The rest is history. Victoria Winters is not there to find out Barnabas is a vampire. That never happened. She does not figure it out. Phyllis Wick in the original timeline knew this shit. She knew that he was a vampire, that he died. She knew for certain. Victoria Winters is hearing more rumor and innuendo than anybody can ever think about. Phyllis Wick knows facts. That's the biggest difference, too. So, I'm trying to think where I was. We know why Victoria Winters gets arrested. Why is Phyllis Wick exactly arrested? That isn't really known, and maybe it's in the Dark Shadows Bible, I don't know, and you probably have that over me if you do. But Phyllis Wick, remember, isn't taken into custody until after Barnabas' coffin is carried to the mausoleum. I can't believe it's over Barnabas Collins. I can believe it's over Sarah. Perhaps the doll was in Phyllis Wick's room. And perhaps that's another reason she's charged with witchcraft. It wouldn't be that far-fetched. Again, I don't know. I've always told you I'm just a fan. I'm not an expert. And that remains true. I'm just a humble fan. That being said, I'm just making a best case guess. With the other time branches, what's different? A lot of things. We don't get into the whole origin story of Barnabas because we don't need to. How many origin stories of Barnabas do you really need? Do you really need to see Barnabas turned into a vampire every single time in the 1700s? In 1795, 96? No, you don't. But what you do need is the saving of one Victoria Winters who gets taken back into time as she steps in it with her boyfriend Peter Bradford Jeff Clark. Bradford, Clark, Bradford, Clark. It doesn't matter what his goddamn name is. And no, I wasn't trying to quote The Rock because I would have did a better job at it if I was. The most important thing is no matter what his name is, the candy ass's name is that Victoria Winters is in love with his hapless ass. Then that's all you really need to know. Fun. That being said, so Vicky has already been persecuted, even with Barnabas going back in time, completely changing what he does to Nathan Forbes. He doesn't exactly kill him here. He bites him. He puts him under his spell. He forces him to sign a confession. The confession is good enough to get Lieutenant Nathan Forbes arrested, but it's not good enough to save Vicky from the gallows, from the hangman's noose, if you will. I'll say hangman's noose because she hangs. She doesn't get her head chopped off. Don't worry. This is not Judah Zachary. Angelique makes a deal with Barnabas. Does one make a deal with the devil, no matter how beautiful she is? In this case, yes, you do make a deal with Angelique, who, though is not the devil, is a powerful witch. I mean, this woman knows what she's doing with her powers, just like she knows how to seduce a man in every way possible. Barnabas trusts her, and why not? Here's a woman who he did trust before with his virginity, and still trust. I mean, you gotta imagine. And I love the story of Josette, don't get me wrong. But we have to put this in contrast. My mom always told me you never forget the first person you fell in love with. Barnabas has never forgotten the first person he fell in love with, and that person is Angelique. I know, it's a hard pill to swallow, but swallow it I goddamn have. Okay. Now that being said, so Angelique puts Victoria Winters under a spell, and as soon as Barnabas leaves with Angelique, she's going to release Victoria from that spell. Problem: Victoria Winters will be buried alive by that time and actually die in her coffin 6 feet under. I didn't say Angelique wasn't cruel, but she can be cruel. Again, this is all jealousy. No woman, in Angelique's mind, no woman, whether it be Josette, whether it be Victoria Winters, no woman will stand between her and Barnabas. Whether they actually are or not is another fucking matter. And by the way, Victoria Winters isn't standing between Angelique and Barnabas. She can't. She's laying unconscious in a coma that Angelique put her in. Actually, she's really not, though. In all seriousness, and like I said, Victoria Winters is not in love with Barnabas Collins. She's in love with a man with a dual personality. I wonder if she'd marry Harvey Dent. Anyway, I have jokes. Now, that being said, Ben and Barnabas hatch a plan to burn a witch. The witch's name is Angelique. They burn her in the tower. She goes up in flames. Yes, I would recommend you listen to Blue Oyster Cult's Burning for You when you're watching this episode. It fits nicely. Also, the song Fire fits really, really nicely. Either way, you'll thank me. You're welcome. So, After Angelique is burnt by Ben and Barnabas, Victoria Winters wakes up from her coma and heads to the Wild Wild West, or at least they're going that direction. This is the last time we'll ever see Victoria Winters in Dark Shadows history. Take it in, folks. Take it in, because it's a bitter pill to swallow too. Here's a woman this series goddamn started with. It may not be the actress we started with. Alexander Moltke was the Moltke Isles is the longest standing actress to play Victoria Winters, and we love her for it. She's our Vicky Winters, no matter what. It's like Connery and Bond. Do you separate? Sorry, I'm more of a Timothy Dalton guy. I'll apologize more later. You gotta understand, it was the 80s. It was fucking awesome. Yes, the scripts were bad, but the movies were action-packed, and God, it was the 80s. Sorry, I had a moment. Now, said, but Vicky Winters is, Alexander is our Vicky Winters. She really is. That being said, Barnabas has to go back into the coffin. The ghost of Josette helps him get back to the present by alerting Willie Loomis and Dr. Julie Hoffman. Barnabas is back. Go rescue him. He's no longer a vampire in the present day. He's back. Barnabas goes back one more time to save Josette. My God, will he ever move on from this? Will he ever move on from Josette Dupre Collins? Actually, yes, and that's exactly what this is all about. I do not think this is a happy accident that Barnabas is written back to go back to 1795. And in fact, I think as much as the Leviathan arc is about these creatures who can take over somebody, who have these worldly powers, this is all about Barnabas moving on from Josette. Think about it. Josette doesn't die from Widow's Hill. She dies from poisoning. So how she dies at least changes on the surface of things. That's right. If I didn't mention it in this video before, I mention it now. Originally, in the original timeline and in Victoria's 1795 town, Josette goes off Widow's Hill. She hits the rock like a fish hits the goddamn land, and she hits it hard. Her face is disfigured. There isn't much left of her goddamn body, and you can, I'll leave a picture, trust me, it does it justice, or it doesn't do it justice, however you want to view it. In this version, there's no Victoria Winters. There's no mention of saving Victoria Winters. This is all about saving Josette Dupre Collins. But Barnabas, previous to his previous trip, has learned from his mistakes. He knows if he goes after Josette, she goes off that hill like nobody's business. And guess what? He doesn't. He gets Natalie Dupre, who Ben, in the previous timeline, and when Barnabas went back the first time, killed. That's right, Natalie Dupre is alive. In this timeline, this is another time branch of 1796, if you will. It's because you have now opened two different time branches. And it's crazy that you're doing this. The fact that you're doing this justifies insanity. It really is. I love our boy Barnabas. He's the man. But understand one thing. Just because Barnabas, this is not Marty McFly, meaning just because Barnabas goes back in time doesn't mean he's intended to save the day or save the damsel. Look, I know this might sound morbid, so I apologize if it does, and I'm serious. Dark Shadows is all about moving on and growing up. For all the supernatural, for all the vampires, werewolves, ghosts, goblins, witches, mages, time travel, parallel time, Dark Shadows is all about becoming one thing, an adult. You heard me, it really is. And I love it for that. It teaches every lesson, every comedy drama would in the 80s or 90s, and then some. Hell, it teaches it better than any of them ever did, and you fucking heard me on that. That's right. Those are fighting words. It really does. Dark Shadows does it right, and it does it through a character who needs to learn the lesson the hardest. Barnabas. Barnabas is the young man who isn't a young man who needs to learn he needs to move on from the past and move on from Josette. And Josette tells him so in the most nicest way imaginable. In a seance. Once Josette is poisoned and she disappears into her portrait, the Leviathan claim to have Josette's ghost prisoner. Question: do they? Answer: no, they don't. In fact, Josette tells Barnabas, the Leviathan do not hold me prisoner, but you need to move on from me. You will find somebody else to love. Josette's words, not mine. It's one of the most adult things a ghost can say, and it's because it's all meant to be true. Josette is telling Barnabas, in every way possible, I am not meant to be saved. Whether it's off a widow's hill, whether it's by poison, I am meant to die. I have accepted this. You need to too. Move on. You will find someone else. It is one of the most beautiful sentiments in Dark Shadows history, no matter how sad it sounds, because it's true. It's all about being more of an adult than Barnabas already has been. Yes, he's gone back into 1897 and gone on one of the best crusades in DS history. He's going to go on one more after this. And if I'm sounding like Patrick McRae's Dark Shadows Day book at all, well, okay, that's not a bad thing. It is beautiful, though. Josette telling him to move on, and he does. So those are the time branches. We have a time branch where Natalie and Forbes are killed by Ben. We have a time branch with Victoria Winters where Forbes is just killed by Barnabas. Was Forbes always killed by Barnabas in the OG timeline? Yes, I think he was, and it was done the exact same way. I don't think there's too much of a variation with the first two, other than what I mentioned. They're interesting time branches. They really are. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. You guys have a good day. I'll see you here in a bit.